Hey everyone, and welcome back to another Forge College Explainer. I am super excited to be your guide today. So you know how in our last lesson, writing basic Borsh serializers in Rust, we totally mastered the art of basic flat structs? We packed those simple, predictable data boxes perfectly. But let's be real for a second. Real-world data, it's almost never a neat little square box. It is messy, it's complex. So today, it's time to draft the blueprints for handling this messy, complex data on Solana using Borsh. We are really stepping up our engineering game today, so let's get into it. Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our 6-part engineering schematic for today. We're going to cover the complex data minefield, packing nested structs, the length prefix trap, manual serialization, the AI testing loop, and finally, a blueprint review. All right, kicking things off with Section 1, the complex data minefield, or as I like to call it, welcome to the real world. So welcome to the real world of on-chain accounts. We are no longer dealing with those simple flat structs from our last lesson, those neat, highly predictable square boxes. Now, we are looking at complex Solana structs. We are literally trying to cram Russian nesting dolls, variable length accordions, and, well, ghosts into a single byte stream. I know, it sounds totally chaotic, right? And honestly, the terrifying part here? Small mistakes with these complex layouts don't just throw a nice, helpful error. Nope. They lead to silent data corruption, which is an absolute disaster for your smart contracts. Moving right along to Section 2, packing nested structures. Because composition is absolutely key here. Now, when you've got a struct nested inside another struct, you don't need to panic. You just apply basic composition. Basically, each inner structure handles its own deterministic sequence, and the outer structure just stitches them all together. It's kind of like a giant puzzle. But let's talk about those ghosts I mentioned earlier. There is a massive difference between packing an option none and an entirely absent field. An option wrapper in Rust isn't just a concept, it has a literal physical presence on the wire. Option none writes a single 1 byte 0 to the stream. An absent field, on the other hand, writes exactly 0 bytes, so they are absolutely not interchangeable. If your reader is expecting a ghost and finds literally nothing, well, every single byte that follows gets misinterpreted, and boom, your data is completely ruled. Which brings us to Section 3, the length prefix trap. This is, without a doubt, the #1 code killer. You can kind of think of a length prefix as the instruction manual for our variable length data, those accordions we talked about, like a vec or string. Because these types constantly stretch and shrink, the deserializer has absolutely no clue when to stop reading. So the length prefix is just an integer that gets written right before the collection, explicitly declaring exactly how many items follow. In a way, it's the hero that organizes all our data, but if you size it incorrectly, it immediately becomes the ultimate villain. And this brings us to a quote you should practically frame on your wall. Mismatched integer sizes for lengths are the single most common source of deserialization bugs. Seriously, consider this the golden rule of Borsh. Let me give you an example. Let's say you write a payload length using Borsh's default 32-bit integer, that's 4 bytes, but on the reading side, your manual implementation accidentally reads a 64-bit integer, which is 8 bytes. What happens? Well, the reader just swallowed 4 bytes of your actual real data just to calculate the length. From that exact millisecond, every subsequent byte is shifted over. Your entire on-chain account is completely silently corrupted. It's an absolute disaster. All right, Section 4, Manual Serialization Strategies. It's time to take the wheel. So there comes an exact moment when an engineer just has to take the wheel. To prevent those length prefix disasters we just talked about, sometimes automatic derivation using macros simply isn't enough, and you actually have to manually implement your traits. Imagine a literal timeline of serialized bytes for a hypothetical entry struct. First, you've got a 4-byte ID, then a highly explicit 4-byte payload length. Next up, the payload bytes themselves. And finally, a 1-byte metadata flag handling an option. When you write this implementation manually, you're enforcing the layout step by step. You're not just guessing what the compiler is doing under the hood, you are explicitly commanding it. Moving to Section 5, the AI-assisted testing loop. Time for the stress test. Now, I'll be honest, writing all this manual boilerplate can get pretty tedious, and testing it is even harder. So we like to employ an AI sidekick for a 4-step testing loop. Step 1, scaffold your base structures with a highly specific prompt. Step 2, run your tests locally. Step 3, capture the exact failure. And Step 4, prompt the AI for a targeted fix. Now here is an absolutely crucial tip. Do not, and I mean do not, feed the AI a massive sweeping stack trace. It just doesn't help. Instead, give it exactly 3 things: the failing test name, the printed input value, and the specific assertion failure. You want to keep the patch highly focused. So what exact scenarios do we actually need to stress test? Well, we've got 3 primary targets here. First up is the round-trip test. Basically, what goes in must come out identically. If you serialize a complex ledger and then deserialize it, that assert equa macro better return true. Second, empty payloads. Testing zero-length collections ensures your code doesn't just panic or accidentally drop the length prefix entirely. And third, large boundary limits. You need to confirm that your explicit U32 length handles massive buffers safely without overflowing.
And when you move on to property-based testing to actually generate these scenarios, please don't just use totally random numbers. There are specific byte ranges you really want to hit: 0, 1 to 16, and 64 to 256. These specific ranges, they are the absolute sweet spot for scoping your generators. They specifically target the boundaries where length prefix bugs and off-by-1 errors typically like to hide, which means you're going to catch edge cases infinitely faster than you would with just boundless random generation.
And finally, Section 6, Final Blueprint Review. Let's do some quality assurance.
Before our carefully engineered code ever touches the Solana mainnet, we need a really strict sign-off. So here is your final checklist. First, verify those round-trip invariants with your absolute most complex nested data. Second, triple-check your length prefix consistency. You have to ensure the integer types are absolutely identical on both the reader and writer sides. Third, exercise all those variable length and optional edge cases we talked about. And finally, monitor your memory allocations. You really want to make sure you aren't wasting precious compute resources blindly copying massive vec payloads.
And you know, that final bullet point actually perfectly sets the stage for what's next. I want you to start preparing for our next explainer, which is all about debugging and efficiency strategies. So between now and then, I have a little challenge for you. I want you to capture a baseline wall clock measurement of your tests and really pinpoint your largest vec allocations. Because in the next session, we are going to take those baselines and ruthlessly optimize them.
I'm going to leave you with this somewhat provocative thought. Are your serializers silently shifting bytes right now? Because honestly, without explicit manual control and rigid testing of your complex data types, they just might be. Always remember, keeping your lengths explicit is absolutely the key to your smart contract's survival. Anyway, thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. I highly encourage you to visit forge.college to master even more Web3 engineering topics, dig deep into the code, and keep building. See you next time.